I want to give a quick shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. And I am done. Okay, so I just got done reading Fire and Song. This is book number 2 in the Warformed Stormweaver series by Bryce O'Connor. And I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing this book, which was literally just right now. So I like this one. I have a lot of conflicting thoughts, and I'm going to go over those. And this review is going to sound more negative than I actually felt because I feel like this book had a lot more promise than it ended up delivering on, but I did really enjoy it, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I gave the first book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I felt like this one wasn't quite as good as the first one, but I certainly did really enjoy it. So yeah, good stuff, and I would definitely recommend it to a lot of people. We'll talk about that at the end of the review, what kind of people that I recommend this to, but yeah, it's good stuff. And so before I go too much into the review of this book, let's talk a little bit about what this series is. So this is a series that I've never read anything like this before. I know that it's a popular kind of thing. I don't know the name of it. I don't really follow a lot of like Japanese culture kind of things. There's a lot of these weird kind of terms for different kind of books and media. I know this one falls into one of those kind of like subcategories. I don't know what it is, but this is a series of these young adult. They are adults. I think they're like barely adults. They go to a battle school, and most of the book takes place at this battle school. And essentially, everybody in this world gets tested to see if they are going to qualify to get this special unit that they wear, where if they call upon it, it gives them like special armor, special like fighting abilities, special weapons. People start off on a very, very low tier of it, where it's barely recognizable that they have it. And as they train with it more and more, they become these super powered, like they look like mech warriors over time as they, rank up in this stuff and become like all powerful. In this book, the most powerful people are not sent to the major war that the humans are fighting here. Instead, they are sent to go battle on this circuit where everybody in the universe watches it. And essentially it's a recruitment tool where think of like the Blue Angels or something and, for the Navy where, you've got these awesome fighters and they go around touring to get people excited about the program. And that's what's done here. So they find more value in getting the entertainment side of it done and for recruitment than they do actually fighting on the front lines. This follows a group of kids, mainly one of them, Ray or Rye, I don't know. I read it, didn't listen to it. Or Raiden. So Raiden, who knows? And his best friend, who get accepted into the school at the very beginning and go through their first semester. This book itself here deals with a little bit of the second semester. I think it's in the second semester now, but mostly a tournament format. So almost all the book, they go to some huge tournament, which is the sectionals, where they fight in both the team format and the individual format. So tons of fights, which is what really this is all about. It's got this awesome progression fantasy aspect to it where, by nature, it's just these people getting more powerful, ranking up their individual stats, literally stat points and strength, endurance, speed, that kind of thing, and getting more powerful aspects to their outfit and their weapons. It does sound kind of silly, but it is madly addicting. I mean, think about the thing that makes RPG video games so addicting. That thing where, if you're familiar with this stuff, where you'll be playing it, and then you blink and it's 4 a.m. and you're like, oh shoot, I gotta go to school or go to work in the morning. And that was a problem. I thought it was midnight. That's the feeling you get when you read this. So even though this was a 4-star read for me, I blew through this 1,000-page book or whatever page count it was. I don't actually have the page count because the author sent me the book and he sent it before the book came out, or right before it came out. So it has locations on it in Kindle, but I think it's around 1,000 pages. It certainly felt like that. But thank you to Bryce O'Connor for sending me this book. I wish I could give it a 5. I hate when authors send me books and I don't give them 5s. I would just like to make them happy, but I just can't. And I hate giving 4-star reviews because they're the lowest viewed of all my reviews. I don't know why, but just it always is like that. But the review is what it is, and I won't give any other consideration for what I review things. So that's the background you need for this. So in this book, it really just covers this tournament, and I liked a lot of things about it. And I want to talk about the things that I liked first. I felt like in this book, the main stuff that I liked here is we're starting to get the bigger picture. This is turning into what it started out as was a YA kind of feel to it. And while I don't love YA, and this doesn't have a lot of the YA themes to it, my definition of YA, and I find that a lot of people have different definitions, but my definition is that it has the writing complexity where a young adult would easily be able to read it and understand it and like it. That doesn't mean it might not have darker themes, which this one does have some of. It's just about the writing itself. And I feel like this is, very definitely in that YA category, or at least what I define it as. And while I don't normally love that kind of stuff, I do like a lot of books that are YA. I just don't go out seeking them because in general, I don't like them as much. But yeah, that's kind of the feel to this. But in the first one, it had this, getting this team together, these friends, making friends with other people, and starting to become more powerful. This one is, they're already pretty powerful. They already have a lot of powers. Now we're going to that next level. And I didn't get to really understand what that next level was going to be. I had this preconceived notion of what it was going to be, but it's turned into something a lot different. I love when a fantasy book goes above your expectations for the grandness of the story. And that's what's happening here. By the end of this story, and I won't spoil anything because these are non-spoiler reviews, I'm just the ending was my favorite part by far. It kind of rescued the book a little bit in a lot of ways. But now I'm just so eager to start the next one because I want to see where this story goes so badly. Things are blowing up and getting way bigger and more impressive and just grander than I ever had any idea that it would get. So yeah, super excited about going forward, even though this is a 4-star read. But yeah, I blew through this thing. And you'd think I would blow through it if it was, a high tier, 5-star read for me. But it's just gotten a very addicting style of writing here where I was able to excuse a lot of the problems that I had with it. And we'll talk about those problems in a little bit. And kind of focus on the things that I did really enjoy because, yeah, just madly addicting. I wanted to see not so much about the character development. I have a lot of problems with the characters and the way they talk and the way that it's written. But just the plot. The plot is fun. That's what I come down to on this one. It's one of the more fun books that I've read this year. And I've now read, I think this is my 98th book that I've read this year. And it's up there for, competing with a few other books for being the most fun. And I think of fun as maybe like the most important criteria for what I like out of my books. I want to have a good time. That's why I read. I don't read to have this like literary discussion and, dissect everything and, think about the way it made me feel. And no, I just want to have a good time. And I did have a good time here. So, what else did I really love here? I feel like the world is very interesting. The first one was unimaginative. It was just all stuck on a school. This one, we're getting the bigger sense of things. I'm getting the bigger fight going on here and where these characters are going. And I like that. I love I won't call it a magic system because there's no real magic here. It's all technology based. But it's really entertaining. I like when books, especially these progression fantasy books where characters get stronger and stronger as they go along, do things that I haven't read before, where, the type of mech outfits they're wearing is inventive. The powers they get especially are very different than anything I've ever read before. And it just feels like this author is a very... I don't want to use the same word again, but I'll just use it again. He's an inventive guy. He thinks outside of the box. He is imaginative, is the word I was really looking for. And that's awesome. That's what I want to see out of my writers as well. And it was the execution on a lot of parts that I ended up having a lot of problems with. So let's talk about some of those problems. The writing style here, and this is going to sound mean of me, and I don't want to be mean. I want to be more kind. But it feels like the editor, assuming there was one, I have to assume there was one, let down the author here, because there's a lot of bloat in this story. And when I say there's bloat, I don't mean the story was too long. I mean, I recently read, within the last year, a book in The Wandering Inn, a book that does not have an editor. It's written by a single person who just writes it kind of stream of consciousness. And it was about 2,000 pages, and I didn't feel like there was bloat there. It felt like things kept moving. And it could have been 3,000, and that would have been fine. This one, there was just so many things that felt repetitive. I'll give you an example. Without really spoiling anything other than the first couple chapters of the first book. You know, the main hook of this story is that you've got this character who, I won't go into too much details, but he gets assigned this special outfit. He gets accepted into this school, but there's a stat that he gets that is off the charts impressive. And it makes him have the capability of being stronger than everybody else over time. And it's a stat that no one's ever gotten in the history of ever, not even close. But routinely in this book, it's referenced, and how he slowly admits it to other people. And there's this big drama around it. And I cannot tell you how many times in this book that he had the same discussion with somebody else and blowing their mind about this different thing. Not just like a single line, but pages and pages of lead up, pages and pages of processing that information with the new person, stressing out about telling this new person. It's bloated, and it doesn't need to be there. There's a better way to write this. And you know, it should have been pointed out to the author. It should have been cut out. Or figuring out a way to get all these people in the same room and telling them at the same time. Or if you do tell somebody, you know, skip the same lead up that's happened before, because the impact of doing that is gone. Now, this happens a lot in this book, not just because of that thing, but there's many discussions that felt like he's had this same discussion with somebody over and over and over again. And so that was a problem from the bloated side. I feel like there were scenes in this that could be trimmed significantly down. In the first book, we got the time period of that book, a book that I did not feel like had the bloat issue, of a whole semester. I don't know, 6 months long? I don't know semesters in this book. If people go year-round, I'm assuming. So let's say 6 months. This one takes place over like a month. So you've got 1,000 pages dedicated to about a month of time. It needed to be either a shorter book or extend the timeline out further so that more events were happening and you spend less time with them. You know, we had a lot of fights with people in this tournament that the reader, maybe me, the reader, I won't claim it's you because I'm sure some people love this, but they're fights in immense detail of people that I don't care about, because the author hasn't made me care about them. I care about the main character. I care about the people closest to this main character. But when these side characters and they're going over these like 20, 30-page fights, you know, it's cool. It's entertaining, but the emotional impact is gone. And it could have just been separated out. And then you have these fights that we are glossed over of the characters that we do care about. And it was just an odd choice. You know, a lot of the dialogue felt way too long. I found myself wanting to gloss over it. I didn't, but I wanted to. And part of the reason I flew through this book so fast is I kept just powering through going, I want to get to the next major event that happens. The events that I know that are going to be there. And so, yeah, it just had a lot of editing problems. You know, it's not like misspellings or grammar. It's just cutting things out and trimming things up and tightening it up a little bit. Tightening up a lot, actually. That was a problem. It may be equal to that problem. The way the characters talk to each other is very much in that YA category. These people are talking to each other not like normal people talk to each other. Everything is overdramatic. Every little thing is mind-blowing to these characters. And they have to go through these stages of processing all the information. And they're not able to just kind of... It's not how people act. It's not how a normal person acts. It's how maybe teenagers act, but these kids in this story are not children. They shouldn't act like this. They're the cream of the crop, future military type people. They should be able to process this info better and not have to go through this intense amount of emotions with every single little thing. You know, it's crazy. I mean, I wish I could take some quotes out of this and save them and read them to you so you'd understand what I'm talking about. But many times I just end up rolling my eyes at the conversations that they're having with each other and going like, come on, you know, let's get to it. You know, it's not everything needs to have this emotional, you know, punch to you that the author's going for. Because it ends up kind of lessening the big moments that end up happening because he's trying to focus so much on these other events and make everything so dramatic. It doesn't need to be. It you know, spread out the drama so that when it does happen, that it impacts me more. And because the events that happened here that really did jaw drop me, there were a lot of them, and they were impressive, and I wasn't ready for them. And it's going to make me keep thinking about this book for a long time. But it could have just been done in a better way. Now, maybe I could be explaining this better. I'm sure I can. But I think a lot of people that read this that aren't like mega fans of this series, that are going in kind of with a blank slate, will probably understand what I'm saying. A lot of you aren't, because the fandom here is over the top. And, you know, it's not like the biggest series in the world, but it has a very solid following of, I mean, the Patreon for this is impressive. There are tons of people that are invested in the story, invested in watching the writing process, invested in, you know, in deeply into it. I mean, for a book of this size, and the first one is not huge, it's got a very impressively active, like, subreddit. You know, I already mentioned the Patreon. So it's got a massively diehard following that is going to eat up this story. It almost feels like it's made for them. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily made for the neutral observer who isn't involved in the fandom and just is picking it up because it was recommended to them and they're giving it a shot. And so, yeah, and I'm one of those people. So that's ultimately where I land on this thing. Just feels like it could have been something top of the top of impressive. And instead, it got pulled back. I have hope that the author can fix some of these problems. I don't know that it will, because, you know, I can't imagine that's the trajectory that things are going to go. I'm sure this author is going to get a lot of positive feedback from the story, and I'm going to be in the minority here. And good for the author. Good for the fandom. Not great for me, but I will continue to read this series. I'm very invested in it. I can't wait to go and read more of it. It's just, yeah, these problems are littering it, and I'm having a problem with it that I'm trying to get through. So, yeah, that's basically my thoughts on this thing. So who do I recommend this story for? If you're a video game nerd, especially RPG games, I think you're going to love this. If you are already like progression fantasy stories, this is awesome. It's really good stuff. I feel like those are the categories that are going to just eat this up. You know, it's not classic fantasy. You know, it's not, you know, literary fantasy by any means. So you've kind of got to be in this kind of almost like subculture of fantasy to really be into this, or come from like some other venue. And then it has the potential to be, you know, maybe like your favorite series, but it's got its faults. Try to ignore them. Try to focus on the good stuff, because there's a lot to like here. So that's it for me. Thanks you so much for watching, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gregory, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝐿, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tahir, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Fanixan, Harry B, Joe, Kat Mick, Maria, Michael Sugarman, Sky, TW57, Wacky, and Zion. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.